everyone, and welcome to week 2 of LTF. I'm joined as usual by John. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Hello again, everybody, as usual. It's been a very interesting week for us Burnley fans, none of which we could have imagined in our wildest dreams, I'll be honest with you. But I've been living on it for the last 3 or 4 days or so. In fact, before we move on, in my local shop, we have a woman that serves behind the counter, and she's a big Chelsea fan. So whenever I've been going in mid-afternoon, I've been winding her up something rotten about it.
I've got someone at work who's the same.
But yeah, it's been great. You know, it's been actually nice to think about nice things, and it just goes to show that little bit of quality from Mr. Clark does really. So yeah,
more signings like that needed. Anyway,
indeed.
So obviously the aftermath of what happened at Stamford Bridge. All I can say is, whilst watching it, social media went into meltdown. You got people like the Master Bucks, who's all the way over in Australia, screaming his head off about us being 3-0 up. Gary Lineker couldn't believe what he was seeing. Who was it? Paul Weller was just losing his mind on Twitter. It was remarkable. And here I was sitting here going 5-0 to Chelsea. Well, I got the 5 goals right, I suppose, but not quite in the manner of how it went.
I've got to be honest, I was working that day, although I did do a delayed commentary 2 days later, which showed my even more enjoyment of it. I enjoyed it even more of it, and I just said what I felt as I would have thought at the time.
Obviously, we've got the wonderful thing of trying to predict. I've got no credibility now. I sat here and went 5-0 to Chelsea, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have been the same. So nobody's got any credibility this week for predictions, apart from yourself.
Also, I've also got to give a special mention to Huddersfield Town, and they didn't just break the coupon, they smashed it.
Yes,
we all said a narrow victory for Crystal Palace, and there they go out there and absolutely outplayed them. So well done to David Wagner's team. You've proved us wrong, so well done. Thank you very much indeed.
Briefly top of the Premier League in their first outing. Anyway, right, so we've got the small matter of making predictions for this weekend. Obviously, they could be slightly different after what happened, but we'll see. So first up, on Saturday the 19th of August, we've got Swansea City, the early kickoff at 12:30. Swansea against Manchester United. Now, based off of what has happened recently with both Swansea and Manchester United, obviously Swansea selling their star player in Gylfi Sigurdsson, and Manchester United looking like an absolute juggernaut in their first match, winning comfortably 4-0 against a decent West Ham side. West Ham have certainly stepped up a lot. I think they're in a much better position than, say, Swansea. Obviously, the only difference is that Manchester United will be playing away from home, which was one of the slight problems. A lot of draws last season. A game like this would be the kind of situation where they ended up drawing. Will that be the case this time, John, or are we going to see them smash it out the park for a second?
I think it's going to be normal. I think it will be normal service regime, Chris. Swansea will be absolutely seething from the blow of losing Gylfi Sigurdsson. That was their main player. He was the man that made Swansea's midfield tick. Now, to lose him they've got £45 million or whatever for him, but they won't get a replacement in before Saturday. You can get your boots on that. I think Manchester United was just unplayable against West Ham. That's one of the reasons why I've got them down to win the league. I think United's defence looks very, very solid. Matic has made a hell of a difference in protecting the back four. And I think he had a good debut. Lukaku is firing on all cylinders. Rashford looks sharp. Martial looks sharp. Pogba looks sharp for the first time since he's joined Manchester United. Obviously, I think he'll do better this year than he did last year. When you look at the signs, I think there's a golfing class between the two teams. Swansea have obviously lost their class with Sigurdsson. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the rest of their team, but I mean they've lost the main man, and I think
we can sort of sympathise with them in a sense that we lost Andre Gray essentially without having a replacement in place at all. Plus also the fact that one of the guys that probably would have benefited from Gylfi Sigurdsson being sold is now playing for us in Jack Cork. So, bit of an odd one, that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, Swansea have among themselves to blame on that, haven't they? But anyway, getting to the prediction finally, I just think it's going to be a one-horse race, I'm afraid. I hate to say all this one might be joining us from last season or for the first time, but I think your team will get absolutely sound thrashed. And I'm going to say 3-0 to Manchester United. Simple as that.
Well, this was the place that Pogba turned up for the first time properly for last year for Manchester United, scoring that. It was a very good volley last season. Cracking goal. I've got to agree with Manchester United winning. Whether it will be as comfortable or not, obviously, home advantage tends to give Manchester United a bit of an edge when they're when obviously they've got that magnitude of players. I think it'll be a little bit closer. I'm going to go. I don't think Swansea will score. I mean, as good as Llorente is, I think Manchester United will be able to cope. Obviously, De Gea is a quality goalkeeper, and he'll be the difference between Manchester United finishing top two. Goalkeepers are very important, Pep. But yeah, I'm gonna go for 2-0 to Manchester United on that one. So then, starting with the Bees, not the Bees as in the flying variants, as in Bournemouth, beginning with a B, going up against the Hornets, Watford, as John corrected me off air. Otherwise, that would have been a really, really, really good pun. Bournemouth against Watford. Obviously, Bournemouth coming off the back of a tough 1-0 loss against West Bromwich Albion. The Hawthorns is a very difficult place to go, as a lot of us know, particularly Burnley fans last season. Wasn't a good place to go. Bournemouth at home, though, is a very, very different prospect. They just throw the kitchen sink at you from first minute to last. Going up against a Watford side who played some really good stuff against Liverpool. They certainly look like a team on the up. When you manage to score 3 goals against Liverpool, I know the defence isn't great, but getting a point from Liverpool first game of the season, a lot of people probably weren't backing Watford to do so. So they'll have a bit of confidence about them. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be another case of sharing the spoils. I get the feeling, but it's going to be an entertaining one. I know it's early doors in the season, but I'm going to go with this one. It's going to be 3-3. Watford to go 3-3 2 weeks in a row. Yes, that's what I'm going to go for.
I think it'll be a narrow victory for Bournemouth. The reason I say that, Watford are not very good on their trolls. Now, Marco Silva is a very good home manager. He's only lost once in 3 years, and that happened to be a crucial one last year for Hull against Sunderland. Having said that, though, he sets up well home. I think there's still a lot of question marks about him away from home. And there's a lot of question marks, certainly last season, about Watford, how they played away and everything else. Bournemouth's home form was fantastic. It got them to 9th in the league. Good luck to them and all that jazz. I thought they were excellent at home last season. I think they'll start off in the same fashion. I think you've got Jermaine Defoe there. I think he could be a big, big player for them this year. And I think you've got to back. I'm going to back Bournemouth for a narrow 2-1 victory. Watford will give them a game, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they've got some very good players, Will Hughes, Andre Gray, to name but two. But I would certainly go for Bournemouth. Certainly on the way they played at Dean Court last season. I would say 2-1. I think it'll be a close game, though.
Yeah, it's going to be an entertaining contest, that's for sure. Then we spoke about going to the Hawthorns being a difficult thing. It's on the opposite end of the shoe this time. Opposite end of the shoe. That's not an analogy I want to use again. It wasn't very good. Burnley, obviously, going up against West Bromwich Albion at Turf Moor. I saw this fixture last season. It was at the back end of the season last season. I was intending to vlog it, but I just didn't get around to it. But I'm sure I'll insert some kind of clip of me screaming at someone. But it was a 2-2 draw last time we met. Sam Vokes coming up with both goals again. He was on cracking form at the back end of the season. Those 2 goals essentially ensured our survival, as that's the last point we actually got that season, annoyingly. But I could probably see it being more or less the same. I think West Brom they've certainly improved as a team. All this talk of Johnny Evans being linked with Manchester City probably isn't going to help them slightly, but I think it's going to be the same. Key man to watch for me is going to be Jay Rodriguez. I don't know what the bets are going to be like on him scoring, but I think it's going to be fairly high, and he will probably make the Burnley board regret not moving for him in the window. But I do think we've also improved as a team as well. So both teams have taken, I would say, a step forward. We were fairly even in terms of how well we played, obviously ignoring what happened at the Hawthorns, because that was a bit of a freak result, to be honest. Well, I say a bit of a freak result. We were awful away last season, but to play that badly against West Brom was a bit of a freak incident. But I'm gonna say 2-2 again. I think I know we're really good at home, or we were last season anyway. But I think you're looking at two teams that are pretty much locked in terms of player ability, and two very astute managers in Tony Pulis and Sean Dyche, and two proper fan bases as well. I know. What was it? The YouTuber Vizzy says, I really hate playing against West Brom because they always seem to do us dirty somehow, but either by smashing us or us being unable to beat them, which is certainly something to keep in mind, which is why I'm going to go for 2-2, because I think two even teams, really hard to split, but I'm going to say that Jay Rodriguez will be one of the goal scorers, and probably Sam Vokes as well.
Well, I'm going to be a bit more braver this time. I'm going to get beat last week, and I ended up with egg on my face, quite rightly so, and I was quite glad of that. And I think we could continue this. If we play the same formation as we played at Chelsea last week, I don't think that West Brom defence is good enough to withstand our pressure. I mean, if we could do that to a Chelsea defence, like David Luiz and all that lot, and they cost about, nearly 100 million between them. OK, Cahill got sent off. But
I was going to say, I trust West Brom to at least keep 11 men on the pitch. I
would have thought so. But, having said all that, we're at Turf Moor, the pitch is compact, the crowd of them. West Brom won't like going up there, there's no doubt about it. I know Pulis will have them well drilled, as he usually does. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. I don't think so for obvious reasons. West Brom aren't exactly what you call a traditional good attacking football side. I think we can nullify Jay Rodriguez. If Tarkowski and me have good games again, like they did last week, I think they could nullify the threat of Rodriguez. I really could. And I think Vokes is in great form. If you take into account what he scored last season at the back end, he's got 5 in 4. So into account, I think Burnley could steal this one. I don't think it's going to be much in it. I think it's only going to be one goal in the entire game. I think Sam Vokes will get the winner, and I think Burnley will just nick it by a goal to nil. And 6 out of 6, lovely jubbly.
Interesting prediction. Then we move on to Leicester, former Premier League champions now, as we have to say. We can't use the buzzword the champions anymore because, it's been and gone. The fairy tale has ended, unfortunately, for all the football romantics out there. But there is another fairy tale in Brighton that they now have to face, they had a bit of a baptism of fire with Manchester City, and they, unfortunately didn't get the upset that I was predicting. John quite rightly hit the nail on the head with Manchester City getting business done as usual. Lots of familiar phrases I found in that match that generally would be aimed at Burnley. It was a good effort, but they just weren't quite good enough. That might be the Brighton's buzz phrase this year, because I get the feeling that they might be the team to have that mantle this year. But anyway, talking about their game, Leicester, obviously at the KP, banned from doing their extravagant grass art, which I think is a bit of a silly rule, if I'm honest.
Let me be honest. The Premier League, before we crack on, the Premier League, you're a bunch of numpties. Why introduce a rule like that? It brightens the league up. The Leicester pitch is one of the best kept pitches in the country. Why can't you let them do it? I just find that stupid. The Premier League are just full of bloody bullshit right now. Sorry to swear, but it's just a money making machine with them. They couldn't be bothered really. They'll make any stupid rules up. They're as bad as FIFA. Let's be perfectly honest. Anyway, that's my piece on it. But I think that was the most ridiculous rule I've ever seen, and the Premier League are going to lose a lot of. They're going to lose a lot of with me. They keep on going the way they are.
Well, without the extravagant pitch design, it was supposed to fall in line with UEFA regulations, but they're not in Europe this season, Leicester. So I don't know why that would apply. If you qualify for Europe, then sure, why not? But they're not in Europe this season, so why should they be restricted to that? But anyway, the game itself has to be played on normal looking grass by Premier League standards. It's gonna. I think we all know how good Leicester are at the KP Stadium. It's going to be a very tough day for Brighton. I can't see them getting anything from this game. I think they'll put in a good shift, but I think it's going to be a similar scenario to against Man City. They'll put up a good fight, they'll play some good stuff, but they just won't quite have the quality at the end of the day, and I think Leicester will eventually run out 3-0 victors.
Yeah, exactly the same for me. I just think Leicester. I mean, Leicester. I mean, they should have got a point from Arsenal last week. They played really, really well, scored 3 cracking goals, and just unfortunate that Arsenal just rallied in that last 5 or 10 minutes just to nick the points. I thought Leicester would were deserving at least a point, if not 3, and they were unlucky to come away with nothing. But there's enough evidence from Shakespeare's men to suggest they'll have a much better season this year. As for Brighton, they came up well short against Manchester City. Yes, they had a couple of moments at 0-0, which could have changed the outlook of the game, but it wasn't to be. And I think they're going to have. I think the home form will be more crucial than the away form. So with that in mind, you've got to fancy Leicester for the win. Varley's hit the ground running. I think Iheanacho for Man City, I think, looks a very clever buy. So and Morris looks in good form despite being linked with several clubs, and he's not letting that bother him. So I think Leicester City, I think they're going to have a decent season this year, and I think they'll have a very good result on Saturday too. 3-0, and on the Selco predictor, which I'm actually basing my predictions from, that is actually my banker. So if my prediction does come up as 3-0, then I'm certainly in with a shout of winning one of their top prizes. So there you go.
Okay, and then we move on to another L, which is Liverpool against Crystal Palace. Now this is a fixture that's a bit of a bogey fixture for Liverpool, but based off the fact that Palace got drummed by Huddersfield the other day, and Liverpool will be on a high after dusting themselves down after the Hoffenheim match, in which one of their youngsters, I forget his name, but there's a bit of a thing going around about him supposedly being a mascot with Carragher back in 2008, and that actually wasn't him. But they'll be full of confidence after getting a win back in the Champions League. I know it's not proper, it's a playoff, but it's still a Champions League match regardless. They'll be on a high after that, or they'll be looking to hit the ground running at Anfield, which has occasionally been a problem for them. They had a few difficulties at home in the previous season, so they want to hit the ground running. Palace still trying to find. I think they're still trying to find their feet with Frank de Boer's system. It didn't look like it suited them against Huddersfield. It really didn't suit Crystal Palace at all, which was, I think, what led to them losing. So whether De Boer changes his style or he decides to stick with it, if he sticks with it, I think they're going to really struggle against Liverpool, who have definitely got the quality, even without Coutinho. Whatever happens to him, if they lose him, they still look fairly good without him, and if they keep him, then all the better. But Liverpool at Anfield is always going to be a tough prospect. I'm going to say it's going to buck the usual Liverpool Crystal Palace trend, and I'm going to back Liverpool for the victory by 2-0.
Well, I covered Liverpool the other night in the European Champions League game against Hoffenheim, and I was impressed by one youngster they have called Trent Alexander-Arnold. The free kick he took was absolutely superb. I must admit, I didn't think he was favourite to take the free kick. I was thinking Chan and one or two others, and then all of a sudden, the free kick comes in and it's bent in right at the last second. It's Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's peeling away towards the camera, and I'm surprised, but he's got a very good set piece repertoire. I think they won't miss Coutinho. I'll just mention a little briefly about Coutinho. Coutinho, right? He needs to get his head out the clothes. Yes, I know he wants to go and play for Barcelona, but to me, it's all about money with him. It is really about the money, right? Barcelona have got that money. They've got about £200 million. Why? I mean, Coutinho is at a very good football club. Liverpool, with its history and its heritage, he's been very well paid at Liverpool. He's undoubtedly their best player. I know he's frustrated. He wants to win trophies in that, but he could certainly win something with Liverpool. They're in the European Champions League. Have a year at Liverpool. And I've heard rumours from certain newspapers he's going to go on strike and things like that. I mean,
he's in the same situation as Van Dijk. He signed a long-term contract only last season, so Liverpool don't need to sell him.
Exactly. I mean, you're employed by Liverpool Football Club. Honour that agreement. Anyway, that's my opinion of Coutinho. I think he's being a fool to himself.
Yeah, we're seeing too many players nowadays kick up a stink about trying to play for their club when they literally signed a contract a matter of months ago. But I would go into that, but we're here to talk about the predictions.
Yes, I'll get back to that.
We could get back to that and perhaps make that an extra time episode.
Yes, as I think this is going to be another long afternoon for Palace. They looked well out their depth. I mean, they're used to the Sam Allardyce way of thinking. He's gone. Frank de Boer, as you say, has come in. He's tried to put his own stamp on things tactically. It backfired badly against a very efficient Huddersfield Town, who were superb on the day. Palace had a few chances of the possession, but just didn't take the chances, and Huddersfield did, and that was the difference. And I can see it being the difference again. Without Coutinho, I still think Liverpool have a good enough squad to challenge for the top four. I still think I think Palace will probably struggle. They'll score. I think Benteke will come back and score, but that would be a nice something. But I think Liverpool will just have too much in the tank for Crystal Palace. So I'm going to say Liverpool to win by 3-1 at Anfield.
Okay, then we move on to I was going to say the feeder club of Liverpool, Southampton. That's a bit disrespectful to Southampton. They've developed all their stuff. They're running their club very, very well in terms of their revenue. Going up against another club that is very good with its youth development. Maybe not so much in recent years. I mean, we all raved about Reece Oxford a couple of seasons ago, but he hasn't really reappeared since. Obviously, you've got two of the best youth academies facing off against each other, but it's their first teams, obviously, that we want to talk about. Southampton, obviously, didn't really do anything in their previous match, and West Ham are off the back of a 4-0 drumming to Manchester United, so both teams looking to improve. I must admit, Southampton didn't look particularly great in their first match. West Ham, as much as they got drummed, there were small glimmers that against opposition that was more equal to them, they would obviously do better. And I think West Ham, they've got a good shout of winning this one. I'm going to back them to win this one. I think they've got more than enough quality. They've signed very good players in the transfer window, useful squad players as well as people like Hernandez who can immediately be inserted into the first team. And I'm going to back them for a 2-1 victory at Southampton. I think they'll have the quality on the day. Southampton look a little bit slow out of the blocks. I know it's at St Mary's, but I just think West Ham have got that little bit of extra quality that separates them from bottom half teams, I think. So that's what I'm going to go for.
Yeah. I should also explain this was originally a home game for West Ham, but because of the the World Athletics Championships that have just taken place at the moment at that stadium, they've had to sort of rearrange everything as regards that. So they're playing away from home rather than home as it was originally advertised. But Southampton, really a funny one for me. They haven't scored in about 5 hours of football. Their strikers look a bit powdered up. West Ham, as you say, have done some, as we said last week and we say again this week, have done some really good business. I mean, they won't go to Old Trafford every week and end up being fresh 4-0. That was just Manchester United just being too good for them. You can't blame West Ham for that. But I think these are the sort of games West Ham will be looking to win. I'm like you. I think they'll win 2-1. I think Southampton, though, their problem is probably going to be at both ends of the spectrum. I mean, Virgil van Dijk obviously wants to leave. Southampton have lost a really good supplier of goals and J. Rodriguez. Will Gabbiadini hit the ground running this year after a pre-season? That remains to be seen. But I think when you look at the two squads objectively, you have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, West Ham look to have on paper the better quality and the better class of player. So with that in mind, Southampton, as much as I'd love to see them get a win, I don't think it will happen. And I think West Ham will recover from last week's scrubbing at Old Trafford. I think they'll win it as well, 2-1.
Okay, excellent. And then there's one more game on the Saturday, and that is the great old conundrum, which is Stoke City against Arsenal at 5:30. A rainy night in Stoke, perhaps. I don't know what the weather forecast is for Saturday in Stoke, but if it's raining, you would back Stoke. But who knows?
I think we better check the Met Office after the show.
Yes, that's probably.
But I think one thing's going to be assured of this game. It's going to be explosive.
It's going to be a very entertaining game, that's for sure, provided everyone stays on the pitch. Although Mark Hughes seems to have taken the sting out of that sort of thing. But that won't stop one. I think that will not stop one or two of them. No, there is still there is quite a rivalry between the fans. I know that for sure. But Stoke, obviously, they haven't really done anything. Obviously, they lost Arnautovic to West Ham, who we've just spoken about.
Yes.
Obviously, when they're at I'm still going to call it the Britannia. That's what it is. That's what it'll always be. Very strong team at home. Arsenal, obviously, they had a really strong test against Leicester. This is another strong test for them early on in the season. Where can Lacazette do it in Stoke? You know, it's going to be can the new signings put up with at Stoke? It's the benchmark for away games, I think, in a lot of cases. If you can do it at Stoke, you can do it anywhere else. Obviously,
Turf Moor as well to a certain extent. No one wants to go to a rainy night in Birmingham on a Tuesday night, did they?
Oh no, that's true. That's true as well. But it's a really tough one to call. I'm going to back Arsenal for the victory here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stoke got something out of this. But based off of the business that both teams have done. Obviously, Stoke, they haven't done particularly great business in the transfer window, but they did bring in Jesse Rodriguez on loan from PSG, which I think is a good signing. Obviously,
it is a fantastic signing. Fantastic signing.
They let one striker go to Newcastle on loan. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Haseu or whatever he's called. He's gone to Newcastle on loan, which will delight Newcastle fans because they've signed someone. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I think with the business that Arsenal have done, obviously Lacazette is the main headliner. They added another man in midfield who scored in the Community Shield, whose name I cannot say because I'll butcher the pronunciation, but everyone will know what I mean, who I mean, because he scored. So I'm going to back Arsenal for a very, very tight 2-1 victory. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Stoke got something out of this because this is the kind of fixture which they love. And Arsenal fans hate. They really hate going to Stoke because it's a really, really dodgy banana skin for them. But I think it'll be a tight one. But I'm going to say Arsenal will just about have the quality to get a 2-1 victory out of this one.
Well, I'm going to go opposite way. I'm going to go 3-2 to Stoke. And there's method in me madness here, right? Okay. Arsenal do not like it in Stoke. They've got a terrible record at the Britannia or the Bet365, or if you want to go back.
Britannia, leave it.
If you want to go back a few years, the Victoria Ground, if you want.
Wow.
The old Victoria Ground. But back to the game. I just think Stoke, I always say their best performances for Arsenal. But up here, up to Stoke, up to the Potteries, they don't like it. Wenger doesn't like it. I just have a feeling. I think Lacazette could score a couple of goals, but I just fancy Stoke. I think the signing of Jesse Rodriguez is an absolute piece of pure genius from Mark Hughes. I think he'll do well for them. Obviously no missing Altovich, but at home, usually at the Britannia.
They've still got Shaqiri, let's not forget.
Yeah, Shaqiri, they've got Bojan. He's come back off loan, so they've got quality there, Stoke. Let's not forget that. I'm in a little bit of disagreement with Arsenal's transfer business. Apart from Lacazette and that other guy you said, that you can't pronounce your name, and I can't do it either. They haven't really done enough for me in the window. I'll be honest with you. I really will be honest. I just think they needed...
They needed another centre-back because Koscielny gets injured a lot and Per Mertesacker isn't going to be able to deputise all the time.
No. And then there's talk of Chamberlain going to Chelsea.
That won't help them.
Yeah, so I just think they will not fancy this at all. Stoke will want to get back to winning ways. I think they had a defeat last time out. So they
lost 1-0 to a certain Wayne Rooney goal against Everton.
Yes, they lost to Everton. But I think Stoke will bounce back. I'm going to say I think it will be an explosive, entertaining, attacking game because both teams now will be set up to attack each other. I think it'll be feisty. I think there'll be a few meaty challenges there. Don't be fooled that Mark Hughes is in charge because there'll still be a few of the old guard like the Shawcross and the Ramses in that team that will get past encounters. I think it'll be fiery, explosive. Hopefully no red cards. Let's hope, and no broken legs either. But let's hope for a 5-goal thriller, and I'm going to go for Stoke to edge it by 3-2 in what promises to be, I think, a real goal fest down there.
Okay. Then we move on to Sunday, the 20th of August, where Huddersfield face off against Newcastle United. Battle of the two promoted sides. Obviously the champions versus the team that went up via Wembley. Take whichever way is more glamorous. Now they I forget what happened between them last season. I think Huddersfield drew once and Newcastle probably won at St James's Park. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember off the top.
I wasn't really paying too much attention to the Championship, unfortunately, because we're Burnley fans, we're not in it. So
we're not in it anymore. So at the moment, unless we get relegated, but I don't.
It should be a cracking contest. I think both teams, but they're still in a similar position to what they were last season. I think Huddersfield have obviously improved with all their signings. Newcastle are more or less the same, apart from obviously they just signed that bloke from Stoke. So it's going to be an entertaining game for sure. I think it's the first Premier League game at Huddersfield's ground, so it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. And I think on the back of that wave of fan optimism that will be in the ground, I think Huddersfield will probably grind out another result here. Maybe not quite as fashionable as the Crystal Palace one, because Crystal Palace were completely off the ball that game. Newcastle will know this is a good opportunity to get some away points on the board, but I think Huddersfield will have enough on the day. And obviously, it being their first game at home in the Premier League, that's always it always gives you a bit of an extra buzz. Previous teams have done it in the past. Obviously, Burnley's first Premier League game at home was against Manchester United, and we somehow clawed something like that with Robbie Blake and Brian Jensen with heroics, and other previous teams that have done the same. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Huddersfield to win by. I'm going to say they're going to score 3 again. I'm going to say 3-1.
Well, I think it'll be a lot closer than what you've suggested. I'm going to back Huddersfield to win. Now, Newcastle, I saw last Sunday on Match of the Day 2. They weren't up to the races against Spurs. Spurs had a lot of time, a lot of ping on the ball. Newcastle were quite dirty, I have to say. In terms,
John Shelby, what a muppet.
I mean, okay, first of all, Harry Kane should have gone for his tackle. All right, they've already lost 2 big players. They've lost Dummett and they've lost another guy as well. So their centre back, so their back 4 options are now significantly weakened. And then the silly sending off of John Joe Shelby. Now initially, when I saw it on Match of the Day, and now I'd not seen any of the game until then, I thought Ali had conned the referee into getting Shelby sent off. But when you look at the replay, I don't know what goes through Shelby's mind. He just stamps on the geezer, and and the referee's about 2 yards away from it. Yeah. You can't be expected to get away with that. So they're going to miss 3 crucial players for this game. I know they've signed this guy from Stoke, the guy that we can't pronounce from Stoke, but I just think it could be a really bad day at the office for Newcastle. I think they'll score, but I just think Huddersfield now, they're on a roll. They had a great win last week against Crystal Palace. No one expected them to do it. They'll be underdogs again against Newcastle because of what happened in the Championship. I mean, it was third in the Championship against top of the Championship. But I just fancy Huddersfield. They'll have the crowd behind them. Of course, Newcastle will fill out the away end. 4,000 Geordies will always make their way down, win, lose or draw. But I think it'll be another week of true Geordie complaining this week. And I'm going to say 2-1 Huddersfield. And I just strongly think David Wagner could be getting something together there. His team are playing with confidence. They don't play with any fear. Newcastle have plenty of fear, and they've got 3 big players out. 2 for injury and 1 for a deserved suspension. 2-1 to Huddersfield, I'm going for.
2-1, okay. And then we get to the small matter of... that was the 1:30 kickoff, by the way. Then we get to the small matter of a little game at Wembley between Tottenham Hotspur and Chelsea. Now, after what happened at Stamford Bridge last week, I'm sure Tottenham will be licking their lips at what they've witnessed, because no Hazard, no Pedro, no Cahill, no Fabregas, no Costa. However, Alvaro Morata is going to be scaring them quite a bit, I reckon. The guy was what was it? Paul Merson used the great phrase, he was a different gravy. And I totally agreed with him. When Morata came on, the game changed, and he didn't realise that Chelsea were down to 10 men. And even at 9 men, he created a goal for David Luiz, who was 10 billion miles out of position as usual, but scored the goal anyway. I think Tottenham, as much they haven't done any business really, obviously apart from selling Kyle Walker, but I think their squad right now is stronger than Chelsea's based on their players available. Whether Trippier will be fit for it, I don't know, but they still have decent cover at the right back position.
And that Kyle Walker-Peters, he's no mug. I mean, he had a good matchup at St James's Park the other week, so he's no mug, Kyle Walker-Peters, and that's one of the great ironies. You lose Kyle Walker, but you get another Kyle Walker. You just had a Peters on the end.
Yes.
Either
way, the right back position is well and truly covered there, so they're not really weak weakened from last season, and I think. I mean, there's this really silly thing about the fact that Tottenham are only allowed to have 70,000 on for this match because it's a derby game. There'll be 90,000 when Burnley go there the following week. Yet they have to have Leicester a derby because of police restrictions, which I think is a joke. But either way, there's going to be 70,000 on the match, whether it be I don't know what percentage of that is going to be Spurs fans. So probably 65,000 plus, I would imagine. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. Obviously, the last time these two teams met at Wembley, Nemanja Matic, now a Manchester United player, let an absolute cannon fly into the corner. One of the best goals I've seen at Wembley, the new one anyway. Obviously, he won't be doing that again because he's wearing a Manchester United shirt nowadays. But
and he'll be elsewhere this weekend.
Yes, he'll be elsewhere. He'll be dealing with Swansea, which is I think a much nicer fixture to deal with. But. Yeah, I think Tottenham are going to be up for this. This is going to be the game where they're literally preying on a weak Chelsea with only Morata ready to show for them. And I think, to be honest, this is going to be a big bump on the road for Chelsea. They're in danger. They've got a really tough start, Chelsea. They could be in serious trouble by the end of September based on the matches that they have. But I'm going to say that Tottenham are going to run absolutely riot in their first game at Wembley. First league game at Wembley anyway, and I'm going to say if we took Chelsea apart for 45 minutes, I dread what Tottenham will do to them in 90 minutes. I'm going to say 4-0 to Tottenham. Actually, no, I'm going to say 4-1. Morata will get a goal for Chelsea. He is that different gravy, but I'm going to say 4-1.
Different gravy. Now, one thing I must point out about Chelsea last Saturday, there were a lot of signs of indiscipline. Now, I'm not talking about the 2 red cards. Now, Kales and Fabregas' red cards were deserved. It was the surrounding of the referee, especially from a certain David Luiz, that absolutely annoyed me. And it spoke the enjoyment of what was probably, from a neutral's point of view, a very, very good game of football. Pleased that my team won, pleased that Burnley won, but I was disappointed with the reaction of some of the Chelsea players to some of the key decisions. The 2 red cards they got were deserved. Fabregas, stupid the way he got booked and then took Cork out. You can't get away with sarcasm in the game now. It's that has gone out of the game, thank God. And the referees, I'm pleased they're coming down. Like Gary Cahill, that could have broke the forward's leg.
Yeah, and of all the people he does that challenge to, he does it to the guy who's made of glass. And also, I've got to be honest, as much as I admired Antonio Conte, the antics of him on the touchline was pathetic. How can he feel a sense of injustice when the referees made correct decisions on both red cards? Anyway, moving on to this game. But I mean, I should also add, you also failed to mention that Moses is out as well, and he's a big player for Conte as well. I think Chelsea are all over the shop at the moment. How will they manage without KO and Fabregas, 2 midfield players, one creative midfield player, one a key defender and club captain now that Terry's gone to Villa? I just think they're going to struggle. I think Morata might get on and score. I think he will score, like you say. If he starts.
If he starts, that is. But if he goes with Batshuayi, I can see a real big spanking here for Chelsea. I think Tottenham will win it, though. I've no doubt about that. I'm going to go 3-1, but I wouldn't be too surprised if they scored 4 or 5, considering how thin on the ground the Chelsea squad is. I think there's going to be some tough times ahead, and if Conte doesn't get off to a good start, I can see Mr. Abramovich pulling the plug on his contract. I'll be honest, he nearly walked during the summer over the transfer business.
There's a lot of talk about him obviously not being too fussed how the first lots of games go, because I mean the loss to Burnley obviously proved the point to Abramovich. We need reinforcements. If they lose by a big amount to Tottenham, that might raise the alarm bells even more, and Abramovich might be kicked into life into spending a bit of money. But it's really difficult to tell how this way is going. Obviously, there's talk of Conte, who considered walking in the summer. Obviously, the inactivity is now clearly showing. If they were to sack him, I think it would be utter madness.
I'll put it in layman's terms. If Chelsea end up pointless at the end of August, I think Conte will seriously consider his position at the football club. I really do.
Yeah, I think he would walk.
But as going back to the game, I mean, Spurs are in terrific form. They were professional, very good against Newcastle last week in front of a raucous Geordie nation. They won the game, was very professional. Harry Kane could be the day where he scores in August. That would be a great football novelty. Back Spurs, you've got to back them for the win. On paper, they look a lot stronger. Chelsea heavily depleted. They lacked ideas until Morata came on last week. It depends whether he starts winning or not, because Batshuayi looked well out of sorts last week.
Well, it kind of showed that he was a backup striker last season. So.
Yeah, he did. But you've got to take Spurs to win 3-1, and I'd love it if Harry Kane scored in August, and that would banish any more talk of him not scoring in August. I'm sick to death of the talk when it comes to this time of the season.
Don't put him in your dream team in the first month of the season. He'll never score. But
just to reiterate, Spurs to win by 3-1, but don't be too surprised if it's 4, maybe 5, depending on who Conte goes with for the Chelsea.
Both backing Spurs to win against Chelsea at Wembley. That's a very interesting... Could go completely wrong, but hey, that's what the Premier League's like. Anyway, we've got one more match to do, and that is a Battle of the Blues in the North on the Monday at 8 o'clock, which is Manchester City against Everton. Obviously, small plot lines of Wayne Rooney, obviously ex-Manchester United now. I'm sure he would love to score against City at the Etihad. I'm sure he would be a very popular figure there. But obviously Manchester City, after they got run close by Brighton, but they did enough. For their first game at home, it will be interesting to see how they play on their pitch. Because if Pep Guardiola has now managed to sort out his style and everything, get some play in the way that he wants to and make it effective, we'll see if that bears fruit. But the other thing will be, obviously, teams weren't afraid to go to the Etihad last season. And Everton, they're no slouches this season. No Lukaku anymore, like we say, because he's off to United as well. But Wayne Rooney, he's no stranger to scoring against City. And obviously, there'll be a lot of pressure, I think, on the City players, particularly the goalkeeper. If he underperforms in front of those City fans, they're going to be screaming Joe Hart's name. Because it's getting farcical, their goalkeeper situation. But he didn't do too badly against Brighton. But like I said, that's Brighton. It's a newly promoted team. It's the first time they're in the Premier League. You're going up.
In fact, he made a couple of mistakes and got away with it. I think one came from a corner, mispunched it, and he somehow bailed himself out with his legs. Yeah. Believe that. So
it's the Everton. They're certainly a very well established Premier League side with some very good talent in the side. Good enough to let Gareth Barry go to West Brom. Another good signing by Tony Pulis. But it should be an interesting game. I think it's going to be a close run thing. I really don't know how to predict it because I think it's going to be a very tight contest. I'm gonna sit on the fence on this one. I'm going to say it's a draw by 2-2 is what I'm going to go for, because I just can't really split the sides. Yeah. It's hard to say early on whether Pep Guardiola has actually got to grips with the players at his disposal. He's got a lot of talent to play with. But it's whether his style is, his original style has been modified after his first season, whether he makes it more practical and more effective, or whether he's just going to stay with his old stubborn style, which is just keep the ball and hope that you score, otherwise you're a bit knackered. Everton, on the other hand, they looked reasonable in their previous match. Obviously, they got the win, which is the important thing. Ronald Koeman has certainly got something going on at Everton. They're a very promising side, very sturdy in defence as well. There's not a lot of bad things you can say about Everton, so it's just going to be interesting to see how Everton progress this season. But like I said, I'm going to go for 2-2.
Well, I actually quite like the look of Everton. They should have won by move against Stoke last week. As for Manchester City, they were very lucky to get away with the 3 points. They did what they needed to do. They had Sergio Aguero, and they needed a bit of luck with an own goal from Lewis Dunk to see them over the line at the Amex. This is a tough old game. I think Everton will go there, bring in with confidence. They have a good record at the Etihad. They don't lose many games. They've gone there and pinched draws and the odd win over the years, so they know how to go to Manchester City and win. I think I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go same as you, 2-2. I think City will score a couple of goals because they have the attacking prowess to score 2 goals at least. But there's big question marks. Obviously, you mentioned the goalkeeper. John Stones, Nicholas Otamendi, will Company play? Big questions need to be asked at the back four. I don't think they're watertight. I think Everton have got enough quality in that final third, the likes of Rooney and all that lot. They've got every chance in the world of getting something out of this game, and I think they can do it. I really back Everton to get something out of this game. If not win it, they certainly will. I certainly back them to draw it. I'm going to go City 2, Everton 2.
Okay, and that's all the Premier League predictions for this week. Don't know whether there'll be an extra time. I don't think we've had too much to cover this week, so I would just assume business as usual. We'll be back next Saturday. I'll mention in this episode about the on my channel the Konami Legends Trophy, which, if you don't know, is a series that I'm running on PES, where myself and John commentate on a clash of legends. You've got the best players from clubs such as Manchester United, Boca Juniors, Real Madrid, PSG, all thrown into one tournament, Burnley included as well, because I had to figure out a way to make up the numbers, and I had a Burnley Legends team already on there, so I flung them in it. But you know, it's a really good watch. It's interesting to see, because on FIFA you don't get the opportunity to do that sort of thing, but on PES we've got all the teams together. Like Borussia Dortmund and Sao Paulo kicked off the tournament. I'll link the first game in the description below, so you can get up to speed with what's all gone on. But 3 games are up now. I imagine
we won't give you for those who don't know or have not watched it. We will not give you the results.
No, we're not going to spoil anything. Results up, but by Saturday, I will have uploaded a couple more matches, because I'm uploading them on a daily basis. So there'll be plenty of matches to watch. It's certainly entertaining to watch, that's for sure. Me and John have enjoyed doing the tournament. We haven't actually finished by this point either. We've
still got 4 games left, haven't we?
We've recorded up to the we've got to record the 2 semi-finals, a third place playoff, and the final. So we've still got a lot. We've still got to finish it.
And again, we can't tell you who's involved, because obviously it's a top secret. It's top secret.
That would waste it. But yes. That's currently going on my channel. On John's channel, obviously, you'll get the second leg of Liverpool's qualifying.
Yes, and also on Monday we'll bring you delayed commentary of Burnley's latest match against West Bromwich Albion. I will probably do that on the Monday afternoon or the Monday evening. And if time permits, on Monday night we will do live coverage of Manchester City versus Everton as well, because I will be off that day. So so watch out. Could we have a Premier League double header, and then obviously Wednesday we'll have that European game, and if Burnley Blackburn is televised in the League Cup, which is next week, we'll also do a full length commentary of that as well. So plenty of football commentary to look out for on my YouTube channel. But so I think the next few days for both our channels is going to be quite exciting, and LTF as well.
Yes, it's certainly been very good for the start of the season anyway on the new LTF channel. But thank you very much for watching. As I said, I'll link everything in the description for John's channel, my channel, and the various series we're doing. So feel free to go check the description down below. But thank you as usual for joining me, John.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week. Cheerio.
Ta-ra now.
What a cracking goal!